What is up, everybody, and welcome back to Soccer Wise. David Goss and Tommy Scoops with you on a Monday. We will get to that in just a moment. A little breaking news from Paul Tenorio and the Capital J journalists out there covering the whole scene, but we are stoked to be back. Tom, it is a hectic season for you and all of you, pretty much. It was a fun weekend, and I'm glad that you were able to show up and perform, because people who don't perform and don't show up get punished in this realm.
Speaking specifically of us playing pickup soccer, right?
Exactly.
Showing up for the game. Showing up for the game. Yeah.
I will tell everyone this. We started the first game, we lost. And there were some holes in our small squad, I think. Very quickly, you were no longer on our team. And it was an interesting fact. And I felt like there was more Division I soccer players on the team you ended up on.
Absolutely not. What happened is we had a couple extra people come, and like a good leader,
like a good neighbor,
I immediately said, okay, fine, I'll sit the next game. And then when I turned around to somebody, after I was being nice and sat 2 games in a row because you lost, winner stays on, I turned and said, we're not effing losing. Like, I'm not sitting it down again.
Pure desire, pure will. We had a great time in Austin, Texas. We had an incredible event at Haymaker. Thank you to everyone for coming out. Big shout out to the North End podcast, who you would have heard on the show last week, running the Best Ball League, I believe is what it's called, and I can never remember, but also organizing a ton for us. And the North End Pirates, who gave me, I have it right here, a t-shirt and some stickers, which I was stoked about, but clearly not that stoked that I could be organized and ready for this.
Big time David Goss. He's holding up a nice, what do you call that, mint green shirt? It says North End Pirates. That's a great logo.
I don't think it's like evergreen mint green. Like it's mint green when we were kids and you were like building, what is it called? Cream? Building ice cream. Ice cream. No, what's the houses that you build around the holidays?
Oh, gingerbread houses.
Yeah, gingerbread houses. It's like that type of mint green, not that like Tic Tac mint green. Tic Tac.
Is that? I thought that was just like a Christmas thing. That's like all holiday thing.
No, Tom. It's a Christmas thing, but we live in a Christian nation, so therefore us who aren't are imposed on it, and we try and use the term holidays when we can. Jeez. Thank you, Tom, for pointing out all the deficiencies in our society.
Sure that you were included in this.
Oh, thank you. I really appreciate that. We have a lot of sick gear that we put together for Austin. We sold some of it, so thank you to everyone who came and bought stuff. But for everything we didn't, we are going to give it away. So we have T-shirts. Not give it away. Sorry, sell it. That was a really bad terminology. So we've got T-shirts, we've got hats, we have stickers as well, which will come out. So these are our Soccer-Wise hats, which we've been promising to everyone in the Patreon and the Discord, who will get first option on these, which I am pretty stoked about. And then we've got our T-shirts that say "Play the Kids" on the back, which is going to be hard to see in the sun, which are incredibly soft.
They are, indeed, extremely soft. Sources can confirm.
And they have our new Kickback logo on there. If you've been under a rock for the last 2 weeks, we launched a larger company called Kickback Media that does all things media, but especially has a network of shows. Our first new show, the Kickback Committee, we did our first episode live in Austin, Texas. We're going to do our second episode this week, and that will come out on its own feed. So go to Kickback Committee to go follow that one and get locked in for that. Susanna Fuller, pause there, didn't make that mistake, is going to be our main host. We've got a really good show planned already for the next few weeks, actually. So look at us planning like adults and being locked in and being ready to go. As you can tell, we're here on a Monday because rumors and reports are that we are preparing ourselves for Soccer-Wise 3.0. And so what we're going to do is attempt a schedule shift. Now, in that attempt, we're going to talk about it. We're going to consider it. We're going to think about it. We're going to talk to all the relevant parties so that we're prepared to do that. We have done it today out of nowhere. We will potentially do it as well going forward out of nowhere, as going forward, Kickback Committee will be coming out on Tuesdays. And we are prepared. I think we're really excited, Tom, about the idea of the future.
A lot of stakeholders talking to us. A lot of people are working on it, considering it. Obviously, the schedule changes just come out of nowhere. Nobody could have possibly seen this coming 8 years in advance. So there's still a lot more for us to dive into and figure out.
I love the wording on that, because it's literally just like, there's a lot of people to talk to and we haven't done it yet. So we want you all to know that you're not considering how many people we should have already talked to. and therefore it can't just happen. And you're like, cool. So what have we been doing for the last 37 years? What's been the game plan this whole time? And if what we are referencing is the MLS schedules flip, which has not occurred and was not officially voted on at the owners meeting in Austin, Texas, at the All-Star game, which is, of course, one of the most important sporting competitions that we have this side of the continent, or this side of the ocean, which is why a certain Thomas Muller is desperate to get into MLS. Just scratching at the door, begging for the opportunity to be eligible to play in an MLS All-Star game. It sounds like he will play for free, Tom, if he has to.
Yeah, it sounds like he saw that Messi didn't want to go to the All-Star game, and he said, you know what? I want to be there just for that. How can I get there? No. So, yeah, the latest here is, as myself and Ben Jacobs broke on Saturday, the Vancouver Whitecaps are in serious conversations with Thomas Muller. Cincinnati has his discovery rights. They have been in contact with Cincy as of time of recording. There's still no agreement there, but it is viewed as that's the last hurdle, or more or less that should pave the way for the signing of Thomas Muller. I feel pretty confident that discovery rights is not going to blow up this deal. I don't think MLS league office would allow that to be the case. And Thomas Muller already announced, I'm going to go play abroad. I think he used the word overseas, because the quote was first being said as in America. And I was like, I don't know if he was just using that as a turn of phrase, got misquoted or not, because Vancouver Whitecaps are in Canada. So I didn't know if that was, I think when I was asking around to break this news, I think people were pointing to that. Be like, well, he said America. Still got it done anyway.
It's amazing that Thomas Muller actually doesn't consider himself an expert on geography in Major League Soccer.
Well, I've seen it in both ways. That's the thing. I don't know if he's getting aggregated incorrectly. Nice. Thomas, I understand your pain. It's okay. But he did say his next step is overseas. So when he put out that video, that indicated to me that something was, if not done, then virtually agreed. And
but this is wild.
That's just me reading into it. But I think fairly reading into it. But again, nothing signed yet or done. But it seems to be the conversations of Vancouver don't have the DP spot, so he'd be not quite a Rodrigo de Paul deal, but starting without a DP spot now and then using that in the future. But regardless,
more the Gareth Bale deal.
Well, he never became a DP.
But that was the deal. It just, if Thomas Muller decides he's passionate about golf, then it may not matter for him as well.
Maybe he can go surfing with Ryan Gold. Ryan Gold got into surf.
He got into surfing?
Yeah. When he wasn't getting called up for Scotland, when he absolutely should have been,
they
would ask him, be like, hey, are you and he goes just like, man, I love international break. I just get to go surf.
He's not wrong. I'm glad he's taking care of his time. Yeah. Also, I didn't know this. I interviewed Sebastian Berhalter 2 weeks ago, and they all wore kilts to Ryan Gould's wedding. It was like 4 or 5 of them that went over for it, and they looked great in it. So that was really, really cool. Going back to this is wild. Thomas Muller, we were talking about maybe Cincinnati, who are a team that are, have spent at a high number, have built a new stadium, have tried to compete for trophies. Obviously, LAFC kept getting brought up because of the business connections between the two clubs and whatever that means.
Let me just stop you there. The idea that he turned down LAFC, I can't possibly tell you how dubious I am of that. But continue.
Either way, the idea 2 weeks ago that you would seriously say Thomas Muller is going to the Vancouver Whitecaps would have sounded ridiculous, right?
I agree. Completely agree.
So no matter how this came about, whether it's Muller sort of really looking, really committed and no one else wanted him, whether it's, salary cap structures of no one else can fit him in, which also applies to Vancouver, right? The fact that this doesn't end with, someone offered him a $10 million deal that no one else would approach, and it was the Vancouver Whitecaps. None of that is true. This is absolutely ridiculous that this is occurring. And it's pretty cool because this is a year now where we've had, we had Axel Schuster on the show, and he said, we don't want it to be a wasted year. We don't know 100% what ownership looks like. We want to show the city that we care. We want to make sure that we take advantage of this time to go to the CCC final on pure merit and play really hard teams and play well. To be contending at the top of the Western Conference, Supporter Shield, maybe not, but when we talk about the vaunted Leagues Cup coming up later, we will talk about some of the advantages maybe that are coming there for a team like Vancouver. Still competing towards the top of the West, though. We're looking at home playoff games. We're talking about a potential run to MLS Cup, and then to add in, this is the biggest signing in the club's history. Like, on top of everything else that's happening, this is the cherry on top of this season, and your hope is it transitions back into now we're winning trophies because we've got a guy like this on our team.
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah, like you said, this is not a team I would have connected him to for so many different reasons, and not least of which is they play on turf. And not only is he he's coming from Bayern Munich, it's like a club that like wins awards for like how good their pitch is and how pristine everything is. I will say that since he really wanted him, but since he were like, we cannot go above max TAM or whatever the number is, and that's kind of where that fell apart. So it is surprising, or it's not surprising. I don't think that the rest of the league also didn't really want to give him that much money, and that's why I go back to the LAFC thing. All of that was coming out of Germany. Like, it's like any time that I talk to sources at LAFC, it was just like, I don't know about that. Like, I don't. Yeah, like maybe we'll be interested. Like, I think they might have done a max TAM deal. Maybe. So maybe in that effect, it is factually true that he turned down LAFC if that's the case. But in Cincy's case, since he really wanted him, I think it would have fit really well there. But they were like, we just can't go over max TAM. And Vancouver obviously are going to be able to do that. To your point, Goss, this like Real Salt Lake had ownership clouds hanging over them in the transition from Delroy Hansen being forced to sell the team because he's a bad person to the new ownership. Like during that time, they were able to do almost nothing. Yeah. What like that team did to continue going to the playoffs, like by just using allocation money and like trades. That's like if Vancouver are getting to sign Thomas Muller, like I think that's really well done on the outgoing ownership. Whatever they do, eventually sell the team, because I don't know if any of us would have necessarily blamed him and been like, yeah, I'm selling the team. I'm not giving you $5 million or whatever the number is for Thomas Muller. So I want to say, credit where credit's due there. And I think the more comfortable conversation I can have is I think he'd fit really well in this team because of the way that they play, the way that he understands space, and the way that they dominate through central midfield. I don't know, maybe it'll be different without Vite, but I don't know. I just think as like a second striker, just like a space dominating attacker, he's just going to do really well.
Call him a Rumdeuter. Do it.
Rumdeuter. As a Rumdeuter.
I agree with you. Now, before I'm about to get crushed for this. The trade-off of losing Vite and getting Muller and getting him at this point of the season at his age with the minute, like, I think we have to learn something from the Giroud experience. To me, one of the big learnings from the Giroud experience is at a certain age, you come out of a season into a season with no off season, and like you're looking at 3,000. Yeah, exactly. You're looking at 2,500, 3,000, 4,000 minutes in a row for some of these players, which is crazy. And Mueller's not the same because he was not a full-time starter, what he's coming out of, and he isn't with the national team anymore. And so there's some little bit of differences there, but I think there should be belief he can be a difference maker this year because he's such a high IQ player, and what he does, he is good at, like, sort of in a vacuum. Like, he has to find the space, but once he gets into positions, the finishing should be there. It should fit the style they play. Vite's a massive loss for them. In saying that, if Ryan Gauld comes back, I think there's enough cover right now. Mm-hmm. I'm a JC Nagando fan. I'm a Sebastian Berhalter fan. Like, I think that enough, because of the style has changed, and so many of these players play with confidence in possession and can sort of build out a central midfield and keep the game moving. I think there's enough still there to say, starting, in August, this team has taken at least a half step forward as long as they can maintain defensively, right? And with the Veselinovic injury news, like that's the last piece for them to figure out, is to make sure that they are stable enough across the back line with no Adekugbe and without him.
Yeah, Thomas Muller had 8 goals, 8 assists in just under 2,000 minutes this year, so he's still kicking it. And again, like when you play for Bayern, you can just, I don't know, he had 2 goals and 2 assists against Auckland City. Probably throw those out. But I still think that he's going to contribute at a high level. And I will say, while I wouldn't have given him, again, we had this argument when it pertained to the Philadelphia Union when, he was asking for $10 million or whatever. He had to lower his ask a couple times. I do want to say, if I was his agent, I would have done what his agent did. Like, Choupo-Moting and Muller played together. Choupo-Moting's making $3.5 million. Choupo-Moting is playing well. Yes, he's a little younger, but they were playing together and Muller was playing better. So using that creative math, I would have been like, we want $10 million, right? Like,
transitive property. So
I understand, and like, I don't blame him for being like, what do you mean that I'm not a designated player in this league? I'm Thomas freaking Muller. So It's a difficult spot, but I don't think that his camp were being crazy unreasonable. And I will say this is better than Like maybe he could have gotten more money in Saudi. Like I know that there was an Australian. I think Melbourne City was on the table as well. I'm just I would have been upset if no team was able to get this done. So hopefully Vancouver do soon.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. This has been a must-watch team this year, and now they like push back up those rankings. Like we all want to see how he settles. We all want to see how he fits. We all want to see how this team can progress and continue to under Jesper Sorensen. And like this is a huge part of this now, and this storyline is how Thomas Muller fits in as the biggest signing. Like this is a club who has spent DP spots on Mustafa Jarju and Barry Robson and Sam Adekugbe and Richie Larea. Like credit to them, but not exactly the big names. And now yeah, for sure. Well, credit to them to get paid.
Yeah.
And now you're talking about a guy who, is one of the great goal scorers in like World Cup history. Is a Bayern legend, and I think it still has a little bit more to give, and they're not fully reliant on him. That's the key. Like he can come in and find his space and sort of figure it out. He is not the only big name we're talking about, though. Coming off the weekend, Son Heung-min, one of the best players in Korean history, one of the best players in Tottenham history. His future a little bit unknown, and then Tommy Scoops decided he was gonna, set the Hollywood signs ablaze with one of the big rumors and reports, which is that he could be headed to LAFC.
Yeah, LAFC are advancing in talks with Heung-min's son from Tottenham. What I was told is that, talks are ongoing. Nothing is totally agreed or done yet, but the nuances here is that Tottenham are currently on a preseason tour. They have a game in Korea. That if it's written in the contract, I swear it's written in the contract. If Son doesn't play, you get a significantly less money than what is on like part of these. So, and like he wants to play Korea, right? Too. This isn't just a money proposition, but though I don't think Tottenham are like you can do whatever you want after August 3rd, and like whether that's staying or going, figure it out after that game. So that's what I've been told is that nothing will be official before then, and maybe not even totally agreed by then, but things are trending in the right direction. Conversations are ongoing. Conversations are very positive. Sources told us that the strong belief is Heung-min's son prefers MLS, LAFC, over going to Saudi Arabia. Let's see. He has 12 months left on his Tottenham contract. Maybe, I guess you could say, but this is one where this is real. LAFC are pushing. LAFC are confident, and while nothing is done yet, they are definitely advancing.
I need to be in K-Town in LA when this gets officially announced. This is one of those things where we kind of move past the Revs have to sign a Portuguese player and there needs to be a Colombian player here and a Norwegian player here and all that stuff. And Son is of the quality and profile where if you put him in any market, it would be a huge signing, right? He's been one of the 10 best players in the Premier League over the last X amount of years, whatever you want to call him.
Sure.
He has been the star of his national team at multiple World Cups, but he is singularly a national icon for a fan base that is heavily based in LA and along the West Coast. And LAFC has done a really good job tapping into their local market. It's a stadium that is filled most of the time. It's a supporter section that bounces already. Throw in the greatest player in Korean history, still entering, still in his prime, coming to play for this team. It to me, it's better than Griezmann.
I agree. So I it's in terms of off the field, I think absolutely, and I think on the field, it depends on. The only worry here is that his best position is Denny Bouanga's best position, and maybe he could play. Maybe at this. So again, he just turned 33 earlier this month, so this will be his age 33 season right now, and that's not middle of your prime, whatever, but that's the far reaches of the county lines of your prime. So maybe he evolves.
It's the brick New Jersey of New York City.
But you look at players evolve over their career, and Heung-min's son has played centrally before. Again, can he do that as a lone striker? Figuring out the fit with him and Bouanga, I'm not concerned is my point. Yeah. But it's just that with Griezmann, it's all right, he just goes on the right side, Denny's on the left side, and you just see it happen, profit. I think that's going to be the case here, but that is something that Steve Cherundolo and then the next manager will need to figure out if and when this happens.
Yeah, it's wild that they can get this over the line, and I know not everyone from the outside's like always watching everything going on. It's wild they can get this over the line with no manager in place. Like you don't know who the next person is, but I think the key to me is, well, one, John Thorrington obviously sets the style for the club, but also Son's going to fit in a transition-based style, and he's going to be more ball dominant than anyone else on the field because he has been, and he's going to be arguably the most talented player in the team. So I think either way,
Nathan Ordaz.
and David Martinez. So I think either way it fits fine because the main key is just having them in the moments of the game that they want to be in, which is what LAFC will do, rather than the specific positioning of like has to come in on his right foot from this left side and anything else. It also, I think, pushes LAFC back into MLS Cup contention because I wouldn't say they're there right now. I think the Aaron Long injury still has me worried. I know there's also a conversation around this guy, Alexis Perez, 31-year-old Colombian center back. That sounds like that fill-in spot at center back.
Yep. That I reported that as well this weekend. I believe that deal's close. That's something I'm expecting to happen. Again, don't know the exact up-to-the-minute update, but that's a positive one.
Yeah, coming over from the UAE, played in Turkey most recently. Spent a long time with Querétaro, which at least gives you a little bit of a taste of what you're going to get. I don't think I've made this joke a bunch of times. Like no one does we're actually going to get a free agent who has a legitimate profile signing better than LAFC. They literally did this with Marlon for the last 9 months. And like you're in a bad spot. I think Aaron Long's was playing close back to his peaks of his powers, was one of the best center backs in Major League Soccer. But structurally, the team is strong defensively. They have a ton of cover in central midfield. Matthew Chouanier's loan has gone official as well. So
today.
Yeah, so there should be some more soccer in that team. I think there's still enough of a strength for them to be a legitimate MLS Cup contender if it hits, which is going to be the key. If they're able to put it all together, if they're able to make it fit this season. But it's, I don't know, man. I am stoked about this. So next soccer-wise live show will be in K-Town in LAFC. I will be having the Doc Galbi. Anyone who knows. That's a real one right there. Let's talk about DP signing that's done. We've mentioned Wessam Abou Ali a couple times. It sounds like Columbus has finally gotten it over the line.
Yeah, they announced it this weekend. That deal's done. Columbus Crew signed Wessam Abou Ali. Sources told me the deal is for $7.5 million plus $1 million in add-ons, and Al Ali retain a 10% sell-on. The most interesting part of this is Columbus first contacted Al Ali about a deal in January, like official contact. Like they were like, Club World Cup's coming up. We're not selling them before then. Like Columbus pushed, really, like it never got contentious between the clubs or anything, but they pushed respectfully. They said, don't bother sending an offer. We're not going to even counter. We're not going to respond to it. And Issa Tall, the Columbus Crew GM, was watching the Club World Cup this summer as they were, they hadn't signed a DP9 that they bring in Daniel Gazdag. Wessam Abou, they were hoping to get him this summer. They still said, we're not talking until after the Club World Cup. Their final group stage game, Wessam Abou scores once against Porto, scores twice, scores a hat trick. Issa Tall turned his phone off. He's like, I can't believe what I'm watching. Like, I'm so mad. Like, not like he's jokingly, but he's like, I'm so happy for him about the player. But he goes, God, there's going to be so many offers for him now. Like, oh my, like he just played himself probably out of our budget and probably into other teams. And in the conversations that as they continued this summer, Abou Ali said they pretty much waited for me since January. And he was like, I want to go there. So Wessam Abou Ali helped push this deal through. Like if his desire wasn't strongly Columbus, he doesn't get to Columbus. So I think I'm excited about that fit. And I think a front three of him, Diego Rossi, and Daniel Gazdag is going to kill it.
And just to make sure that everyone in Columbus felt good about the money they spent, they purposely went out, dominated 65 minutes of the game against Orlando, and refused to put the ball in the back of the net. It was like, I turned this game off because I was like, okay, Columbus are crushing them. It's going to finish like 1-0 Columbus, whatever. And then Orlando comes back and wins 3-1. And it was like, it turned around into a pressure saver for Oscar Perea and this group in Orlando who have not been playing their best soccer and were up against it. But everything Columbus did worked except for inside the 10 yards around the goal. They couldn't, and some of it was finishes to the back post that almost landed on a teammate or did land on a teammate that they couldn't direct in. They are specifically missing this one thing. Now, all of a sudden, you've got depth to move Diego Rossi around, to move Jason Russell-Rowe around, right? This is a team that's like kind of been running thin. This one big piece now allows you a few different options. And what I said when the reports first came, and what you saw in the Club World Cup too, is there is some of Cucho Hernandez's game, which is center forward who's willing to float out wide and put crosses in, well, willing to drop in and connect. Like, doesn't always need to be the point of the attack, like a Hugo Kuipers type. And I think that's going to be really big. Born and raised, I believe, in Sweden, then moved Denmark. Sorry. And I think I watched some of his interviews. Like, he speaks English, which is going to make it easier for him to move halfway across the world and settle in. All of this makes sense. And I think Columbus's track record is like, they made the Cucho move to be ready for the following year. I think there's a decent amount of belief that it takes a little bit of time to fit in because the style is unique, but also what he does, similar to Muller, is so specific that's like, if you put him in goal scoring situations, I think you can expect a couple goals already this year.
The other key point to the Cucho comparison is the head coach at the time was Caleb Porter, and the head coach right now is Wilfried Nancy. I think the adaptation period is going to be a little quicker.
But in saying that, like, it took Chambos time. It's taken Herrera time. Like, guys have come in under Nancy, and it hasn't been straightforward immediately. But your point stands.
Don't worry, I wasn't gonna do the low ball there and ask you if that's actually how you felt. which is a really good thing, because I would not want to have to clean that one up. Let's hit one more center forward conversation before we dig into a couple defenders. RSL. We followed they had the full. What was it? Famalicão? No, what club was it? Boa Vista, of course. Fourth division now. Get ready to learn fourth division.
Did they get relegated?
Yeah.
Thank God that this is potentially over. This time, RSL decided that they were going to sign a player from a different set of clubs, which is having their own problems.
Yeah, so that is just so funny that they're signing a player named Ruan Cruz on loan from Botafogo. Botafogo still has not paid Atlanta for Thiago Almada. Atlanta has had to take them to court, but this one is different because they're.
But it's okay because the owner owns other teams that are also super stable, right? Like Lyon.
Crystal Palace getting taken out of Europe until Woody Johnson saved the day.
Also, he sold Crystal Palace, but I think isn't it called Eagles Holding or something?
Yeah, well, like, that's the ownership group.
Right, so the ownership group's named off the one team that he sold.
Oh, that's a good point. I didn't think
now he doesn't own that one anymore.
A big
also, Crystal Palace fans, it was over before it even happened. Welcome to my siblings in pain. When you see the Justin Fields carted off first practice of the year, you'll know exactly what I mean.
Oh, so sorry for the pot shots there. Sorry to the RSL fans who are ready for us to talk about that. Yeah. Back to RSL. Ruan Cruz coming on loan from Botafogo. I'm told that the purchase option is $5 million. He was signed by Botafogo for what has been written on paper as $10 million. I don't know how much money Ludogorets has received, but the deal was $10 million 7 months ago.
Yeah,
it is a serious signing. Like, I hadn't heard of the player before, and I was looking into him. I'm like, oh my God, like this. They're like, yep, DP9, like that's the guy. And this is all facilitated because they were able to get Victor Olatunji on a max TAM deal, which I thought was really impressive deal making by the front office, because like DC United liked Olatunji. They're gonna get some money for his discovery rights. But like, when I first heard about him as a potential MLS signing, it was like, yeah, the transfer fee alone, he's gonna be a DP. So for RSL to get that done to facilitate Ruan Cruz. And now, look, the worst case scenario is maybe they just both don't work. But, like, you sign two legit center forward options, one of which is on loan, one of which is on a TAM deal. This is really, really good business. You get yourself two shots at which one of them is going to win the spot. Or I'm sure that there are visions of them playing together because they're both serious investments by the team. But you're not reliant on one person, and you're not reliant on, okay, this guy's going to fix everything and he needs to come immediately right now. And they still have Willy Agada. And obviously Diego Luna is the heart and soul of this attack. So for them to get this done and get this done ASAP, unlike in the winter when all the targets fell through and then they got caught in the Boavista torture chamber, and they ended up not signing a DP9 like they tried to all winter. Like, for them to get this done immediately as a window opened here, I thought it was just really good business.
And not like exactly the same as Columbus because the expectations are different in Columbus. RSL have played some really good soccer over the last few weeks, and they have struggled to score more than one goal, if that, in a lot of these games. And there are results there that are like on the table for them. Anelli's back and healthy. I think overall the spine has looked really good, and we've seen Luna like play with confidence. Gozo has played really, really well.
Yes.
But I also wouldn't be shocked if this ends up being in 8 months, like Luna and Gozo are gone because the offers come in.
Right.
But now you've got 3 other attacking players that you've brought in along with Agata who are options for you to like, okay, if the offer comes in for Luna, maybe they decide, okay, we're going to make the purchase option here and we're going to keep Cruz or whatever it is. And that this sort of gives you those options both ways, but also to be more successful this season, which to RSL's credit, like they have tried. They've gotten stuck in some of these weird deals, but like the front office has tried to put together the best winning product that they can. And I think in a weak Western Conference, there is enough building blocks that if one of these guys can hit quickly, this is a club that can be easily step on the field. Not that Pablo would ever say anything else, and be like, we can beat anyone on our day and like give us an opportunity in the postseason, which I think is really exciting for RSL. Let's stay in the Rocky Mountains. Shout out to Colorado, by the way. Do you have one of these?
I do.
Don't even know. This throwback jersey they sent me. Shout out to Gabby, who's the best, and everyone else. It is sick. The logo is epic. On the back has my name with 96 and the old logo. You got that? Did you get that image?
A lot of show and tell today. Yeah.
A lot of show and tell. I have one more too.
The majority of people listening to the podcast. We love you.
Yeah. This jersey is like, I don't really like jerseys and I don't wear them, but I will wear this and I will be stoked about it. And everyone else who sends me free stuff, thank you. And I would like to continue getting those things. But this one, I will wear. Yeah, it is with a collar. You've got a little button. It's dope. We are going to be doing some more interviews, I think, from the Rapids coming up in the next few weeks. They have traded for Noah Cobb. If anyone in MLS is going to trade for Noah Cobb, it is either Colorado or Montreal. And this time, it's like they alternate back and forth.
Well, because Atlanta sent Efrain Morales to Montreal.
Fair.
There goes the competition.
They're like, you only get X amount of our center backs.
Yeah, so that deal's done. I was straight up surprised about it.
Me too.
I understand that he has value, but it's a loan, so they only get whatever 100,000. And Atlanta have brought in 2 center backs already this summer, but he just like he was just a dog. You know what I mean? In a really good way. That like when things were going really bad for Atlanta, and not that they've gotten dramatically better, but like Noah Cobb was the guy that was just like, all right, like it was him, Jay Fortune, Matt Edwards. Those are 3 guys that like, all right, dude, they might not be the best players in the league, but like, you can put them on the field and they're going to give you more than a lot of other players on that team. And I think that's when you learn the most about a guy's character is when things are hard, particularly when you're a center back for a team that's hard. He like little things that, you know, journos love to talk about, but I think it means something. He talks after the games. He's a kid, man. He doesn't have to do that. But he's the one coming out saying, we need to be better. I need to be better. And he's the one giving it all on the field. And again, like, you don't become a pro player just based on that alone and no technique. He's a U.S. Youth National Team center back. He's made 40 first-team appearances for Atlanta. Like, this dude is a MLS-level player with, I think, really good upside that comes from he's a dude that, you know, has it in him to get it done. And it's not just like you're hoping that somebody's technique drifts in and he doesn't. Like, I don't know. Yeah. Maybe, and again, maybe it doesn't work out, but like, I just love this move by Colorado. And I'm really surprised. I know Atlanta want to shake up as much as they can, but I was surprised that he was a guy that they weren't like, all right, like, let's give you more minutes.
A few of these seem weird to me with Atlanta, which
Atlanta
is like,
has done some other good business too. This is just a one-off opinion for me on this one. I'm sure that there will be another one that we get to with Atlanta. That
it's just odd to me that you come off the George Campbell sale and you're like, okay, yeah, let's keep getting rid of these players and not give them an opportunity in our own team to break through and be the guys. I think Morales' ceiling is higher than Noah Cobb's.
Yeah, okay.
So, and I think you could convince me, and I'm sure the conversation I'd end up having with someone at Atlanta is like, we've signed veteran center backs. We have a win now model. We don't think there are minutes for him.
That's fair.
It is hard to say that when you're not winning. It is hard to say you have a win now model and there's no space for the young players when you're not winning. And we joke about this all the time. We're like, Colorado has their finger on the pulse with all of these moves. They have depth charts on depth charts on depth charts, which, by the way, are updated for us. So if you don't subscribe to our Patreon. It will get you access to the depth charts. Shout out to Chris and John who keep that one going, and our spirit animals in keeping all things depth charted and organized. And so, of course, Colorado's going to make this move. Also, Awazium picking up the transfer. Colorado has other young center backs. They are not reliant on one. This is one of those where if you can get this player to play in any capacity, they are now an asset inside of MLS or for your own team.
Yeah, and look, it's a loan. And if it doesn't work out, he goes back to Atlanta. But if it does work out, he stays in Colorado. Colorado are also still in active conversations to sign English center back Rob Holding from Crystal Palace. This was not an either-or deal. This was not a contingency plan. They are still hoping to do that. They know that there is stiff competition in England, but they're still in the mix, and they're hopeful that they're going to be able to get that done as well.
Man, Rob Holding is only 29 years old?
This news came out while we were playing pickup in Austin, and the first thing that people were saying,
joking.
People were like, "Yeah, because you're sick name, bro. Get back in the game." And I broke my cardinal rule is when I'm playing soccer, that is the only sacred hour in my life where I'm not going to touch my phone.
But not when it's a big name.
Had to listen. There was our good pal Diego Valeri was hoping to be able to come play, and I had to go check my phone to make sure that he wasn't on his way before it got wrapped up. And then it was just oh, Rob Holding, mate, let me see if I can get this done real quick. And I did. And anyway, the whole point of that was everybody that was sitting around me was just yeah, he's 36, right? I was no, dude, he's 29. They're shut up. No, he's not. But he is.
Do you think that there's ever been a time 5-6 years ago when the Cobb family was sitting around and being you and Rob Holding, you're two peas in a pod? Everyone's always talking about the two of you in every situation.
New partner.
Yeah, and it happened once again. But I assume that's the Wozium replacement. Is the
Yeah. And so they had been looking. So they tried to sign the 22-year-old Ukrainian international Stav Lemkin. That was very, very close. Travel was booked. Everything was agreed. He ended up deciding to go to FC 20 at the last minute. So the guy that Austin signed, Georgievich, I'm pretty sure Colorado had an offer for him rejected before Austin eventually signed him. So Noah Cobb becomes the young center back they're looking to add. And they still want somebody like Rob Holding.
But they signed a U22 center back from Australia as well.
Comes in January.
Yeah. Oh, so this is just for the end of this year, hence the loan. Makes sense. Well, look at us.
But the idea is that he'll stay if it goes well.
There's not a limit on good center backs any roster can have.
That's true. That is one of your if you had a 10 commandments of takes, that would be absolutely one of them.
100%. And if I could, I would have a team that was all center backs, and then I would tell teams to try and trade with me. I dare you. Yeah, I would love to.
Really quick. So the center back you referred to, Lucas Harrington. He's 17. He turns 18 at some point before January transfer window. Somebody joked, seriously, we might have to sell him before he plays here.
The full Riley McGree experience.
And I said that, and it was what's up? They obviously are very much not hoping that's the case, but it was just another, if we didn't get it done when we did, we would have no chance of trying to sign him in January.
Let's do two more, both U.S. Youth National Team connected. Let's start in San Diego, because this, I think, is an interesting one.
Yeah, so San Diego have added another two young players. They've added Pedro Soma in a deal. I forget if that was a loan or permanent. I think that was permanent because
it is a permanent deal through 27.
Thank you. They also just today announced that they acquired David Vasquez on loan from the Philadelphia Union. So these two players and they signed I'm blanking on the fullback's name. That's three U20 players that they've just brought in over the last week. So this is what I was referring to when asked what are they going to do this summer? Are they going to add a DP? No chance. Quite the opposite. But I really, really like these moves. These are three very talented young players, and they fit the style. Particularly Pedro Soma, I think, fits the style. David Vasquez definitely fits much more than Philly, so I'm really happy for him that he's going to hopefully get a chance to play. But I think there was a game a couple weeks ago where San Diego had 5 players on a bench. They needed this depth, man.
Yeah, and what I would say is most teams in MLS, if they made these moves, I'd be it doesn't matter. They're not going to play these guys. They're not going to get a chance. Seriously. Okay, cool, flashy U.S. Youth National Team player comes in, maybe connection to the market, these players all do. But this is the team. Like, this is the team that plays, guys. This is the team that has started Pilcher, Verhoeven, and Bombino across the back line in front of CJ Dos Santos and continues to put up results against legitimate supporter shield contenders. They beat Nashville this weekend. They drew Vancouver with that exact back line, which is mind-blowing. So, yeah, if you told me where would you send David Vasquez to finally get playing time, this would be the spot, and this would be the opportunity. And it's interesting to me coming back around because I believe he's a San Diego native, if not SoCal, maybe LA specific, actually. And when he moved to Philadelphia, it was like a huge scandal where it was like, who has his rights? Where should he be? And there was like a ton of time of, back office politics and all this stuff of like, where should this player end up and like what would happen? And it was one of those moments where you're like, if San Diego was online, they would have been in that conversation. And there are a few other players in the academy setup, Diego Rocio, who we saw just move to RSL, who's a San Diego native, like other guys where you're like, oh, they'd be San Diego players if the club had existed. And San Diego has made an effort to go out and get some of these players and do this thing where they've like put players on the top of what quote unquote would have been the academy while they build it back up, while they build it up for real from the bottom. And so, yeah, I don't know other clubs that these players would play in, and I have like a ton of confidence that they could be difference makers for this team, and it's awesome to see. And they were phenomenal against Nashville this weekend because I thought the first half of that game was a huge letdown of like both teams that have just played bold all season looked a half step off together. It couldn't possibly be because their star players flew to Austin, Texas, went through like a bunch of random stuff, and then flew out to California to play 2 days later. That couldn't possibly be the reason why. But let's say something like that did happen. That's what the first half felt like, and San Diego were the ones that like dragged themselves out of it. Being home helps, but that was an MVP performance again from Dreyer. Sets up the goal beautifully. Like, Chucky gets a finish, but it's the setup from Dreyer. Misses the PK, I understand, but it felt like he carried the team when they needed it, and that was like a gut check performance from San Diego. And as you said, they've been very thin. Now they start to get some options.
Yes, and that's what's most important. And you go back to the All-Star game joke, like Chucky Lozano, they were slowly bringing him back in. Like they wanted to play him more minutes, but they were trying to be careful to not add too much to him and get injured, long season, all that. So it was like 20 minutes off the bench, 30 minutes off the bench.
Yeah.
Then he was able to start. And just as he was able to start is when he went to the All-Star game. And it's like, all right, well, we play in 48 hours again. Like, that's like him more than just about anybody else that was playing.
They need to challenge his skills. We need to know what his skills are.
I'm
going to mock this the whole time so that when you set your premise for the debate we're going to have on Brown Messi, you look like the fool.
I always look like the fool. Don't worry, guys. But like, yeah, like I was just like somebody that I was speaking to was joking, like, like if Chucky plays more than 10 minutes, I'm going to come on the field and sub him out myself. And
I mean, some players played over 60 minutes.
Jacob Glesnes was one of them.
Jacob Glesnes was one of them. Christian Kappas, by the way, was the last big name. Dallas native, signed with FC Dallas, coming home from Viking. Got on the field this weekend, actually, in what was an absurd 4-3 loss at home to NYCFC.
I was locked into Orlando Columbus, and then I kept on thinking, like, you know how it goes, like, when you have either 2 games on or whatever. And it's
where you've missed the goals, and you're like, all right, I'm going to give up. I'm not going to watch. 100%. That's what I was doing.
I'm going to turn it on, and it's just going to chill like this. And then it was just like, ping, 3-2, ping, 3-2. I was like, oh, my God. Sunk cost fallacy gets me again.
Also, with the summer coming to a close, I still feel good about my Petar Musa Golden Boot pick.
When I saw the highlights again of like him scoring, like I heard you saying that in my head.
I want you to feel it though. I don't want you to hear it next time. I want it to be deep in your bones. Like whenever you see Petar Musa take a touch, he has this ability to take a touch where he's like a big guy and you think he's definitely going in one direction, cuts on you, and then he's immediately on top of the ball in a natural finishing position.
He's so good.
He should have had 2 in this game. He only had 1. I think he had an assist as well. He looked awesome. Dallas is a mess. And I don't know how this all ends for them. And Christian Kappas is now thrown into the middle of it. But let's talk about the beloved All-Star game. So we didn't actually do a post-game show to it. So do you want to break down the All-Star game?
No.
Okay. Did you watch the All-Star game?
Tangentially?
You were in the building, correct?
I was in the building. Yeah, capital J. I got tacos at one point.
From the Salt Lake stand?
somewhere. I don't know.
Were they brisket?
It was good if they did
Okay.
that. Sure. It's good.
So the MLS All-Star Game happened last week. It was arguably
we talking about Gilberto Mora,
Yeah.
the Mexican 16-year-old star. What a goal!
Yeah. We could talk about Sam Surge as well and all the things he did. We could talk about the dominance of Major League Soccer over Liga MX, which is super indicative of what occurred. We could also talk about the fact that some big-name players did not arrive for the MLS All-Star Game, 2 being Jordi Alba and Messi. We then spent 3 days wondering if they'd be suspended. Apparently, Cincinnati did not. They just assumed that the rules would be followed because the rules say that if you don't go to the All-Star Game, but you don't have a legitimate injury that keeps you out, you're then suspended for the next game.
Sources told me so the suspension came Friday afternoon. As of Friday morning, Cincinnati were preparing that Messi was playing.
I thought Pat Noonan said, of course, they weren't going to play.
I'll tell you what
Pat's playing me? He's playing me through the media?
Maybe that was an older quote, but I know as of Friday morning, they were like, all right, I guess he's just gonna play.
So he did not play because he was suspended by Major League Soccer, as was Jordi Alba for not having a legitimate reason to skip the All-Star Game. They were suspended for what is a Supporters Shield matchup against FC Cincinnati. The game ended 0-0. Which I don't know if that looks better or worse for Cincinnati, but we can talk about that in a moment. And in the midst of all of this, Rodrigo De Paul was presented at the game. The whole thing, in my mind, is a bit of a mess. I threw some stuff up there on Blue Sky talking about this. I got a range of responses from all types of people, and I think a lot of the responses are fair. Like, I think it's fair to say these are the rules, follow the rules, and, like, this is the way it is.
Yes.
The point of honestly, I don't even know the point of an All-Star game. But the point in my mind is like 2 or 3 things. One is to honor these players, to celebrate them, and you get a bonus for it, to have this experience to be elevated. The other is to elevate and show the league at its best. And none of that was accomplished by suspending a guy who has played 90 minutes in every game he is available for, including carrying the only MLS team at the Club World Cup out of the group stage, where I will bet you every dollar in my pocket to every dollar in your pocket that it is going to lead the presentation at the end of the year by the commissioner and the offices to the owners saying, look at all we accomplished this year. Look at how this league is elevating. Look at what we've done, is going to be front and center. Inter Miami are one of 16 teams to qualify out of the group stage globally at the first ever Club World Cup. So he played through that.
100%.
Played through the CONCACAF Champions Cup. And guess what? Here comes Leagues Cup right around the corner for us on top of 500 other games. The comparison to Zlatan and Henry and anyone else like that is unfair. Those are players who opted out consistently from playing games week in and week out. Anything on turf, obviously, but more than that. And so I just think, one, the All-Star Game's done. The All-Star Game is bad. And the way it is set up in the middle of a week with a Friday game coming up is absolutely absurd. The second is to not be able to have the logic internally and have a conversation and be like, okay, we messed up this year. We added a full cup competition in the Club World Cup, and we have the Leagues Cup, and like maybe there's not enough space to also play a friendly for a random set of players for 15 minutes and all of that. And anyone who's like, just show up and walk around for 30 seconds. One, you wouldn't have cared. You would have been mad about that.
Yep.
And two, that doesn't accomplish the thing, which is traveling, going to the game, being there, all that type of stuff. I could not feel any stronger that it is the dumbest thing in the world that he got suspended. It's the dumbest thing in the world that it is a punishment. Like, here's a reward, and if you don't come get your reward, you get in trouble.
So, I want to preface my position by saying, if I was advising Lionel Messi, I would have told him not to play. If I was Jorge Mas, I would have told him not to play. The rest is the priority here. That is so much travel. Like you said, he played 90 minutes 9 times in 35 days. Jorge Mas was asked about this, and in a respectful way of like, was there any conversation with Javier Mascherano? You know, when you guys were beating the Red Bulls 4-1 in the 80th minute, that maybe maybe now would be a time to start resting. And Jorge Mas was like, listen, when Messi plays 90 minutes. If he doesn't, he's injured. He goes, there is no conversation beyond that. That is load management for Messi. Like, more or less, like, no. He said no. And again, that's fine. Prioritize all of that. There is no way that they could have let him go unscathed on this. There's just no way. You would have had an absolute revolution from the fans across the league. Not New England. They had a player, though, there. From executives across the league. It would have looked like, and again, with the backdrop of Rodrigo de Paul getting unveiled at that game as a new signing, where everybody knows that in the winter he's going to be bought for $17 million and probably have a $10 million a year contract, and he's on a DP right now. There's just no way that you can skip that. And let's remember, last year there was Luis Suarez kind of got away with this. It was under the radar for everywhere outside of Cincinnati. Because guess who Miami played the first game after the All-Star game last year? Cincinnati.
Oh, really?
And guess who wasn't suspended? No. Luis Suarez.
I just remember that they played Cincy.
The fans will not let me forget that. And again, it's a pertinent question. And let's look at it from, so again, if you're looking at it from the Messi perspective, the Miami perspective, it's like, yeah, oh no, of course, right? Look at it from the Cincy perspective. Evander went. Miles Robinson went. Evander's played, like Hani Mukhtar went.
Evander crushed it at the Club World Cup, right?
Hani Mukhtar has played like 2,200 minutes this season.
Also crushed it at the Club World Cup?
What, was Nashville not playing the MLS regular season during that time?
Is Hani, who does Hani have in Leagues Cup? Oh, yeah, right.
Were they not playing during this time?
And in CONCACAF Champions Cup. 3 competitions that they didn't play in. But all of this is irrelevant, by the way, because the main point is that 8 months ago, you should have looked at a freaking schedule and said, we have a nonsensical friendly that we're playing in Texas outside against a all-star team from another country. We have now added 3 more competitions to the plate of some of these players, but especially specifically Club World Cup, right? You had no context to that. This was a new year where this was happening. And look at that and say, okay, maybe we're going to have a policy where players who play in those competitions are awarded all-star spots and then they don't come. And we replace them.
But so then it's you're creating new rules for one player or one team.
No,
and
you could be doing it for Seattle and Miami in that scenario. Or wait, did we not create? And by we, I don't want to take too much credit on this. Did we not create a policy where teams can't play in too many competitions, which applies literally to only Vancouver this year? Right? We have a limit on the amount of cup games. So the acknowledgement from the league is players are playing too many games. We have fabricated multiple competitions, and we are pushing players too far. In that context, the fact that you can't also sit down and be like, by the way, we've added this like other extra game in, which means nothing, and we should probably figure out a policy around that, is wild to me.
Again, I keep coming back to it that there's no way that you could have not suspended him. And again, particularly if I was Cincinnati, I would have raised hell, been like, yo, we sent our players again. So like, I feel I'm not speaking on both sides of my mouth when I say that. Like, I would have done the same thing, but just you have to accept the consequences. You know what's better for him to have obviously not gone to the All-Star game, not traveled. He didn't train during the week because like of the fatigue and everything else. Well, then you get Saturday off too. Then like just figure it out for the rest of the season. They have plenty. They have 3 games in hand still, so there's gonna be fixture congestion. They have Leagues Cup. They have everything else. Like maybe like if you're Miami, you sit him out of the Leagues Cup, maybe, right? Like, if you want to be petty, if you want to be angry, if you want to say, okay, no, you're right, like, he shouldn't be playing in this. Just give him a couple weeks off, right? Again, if they do that, I wouldn't criticize them either. But there has to be an acceptance of the punishment. There are actions and reactions, and you can cognitively make that decision, but to just expect that the rules are going to get changed, like, no, that's not fair. And again, it's a bad rule, is what Jorge Mas said. The punishment is draconian, what Jorge Mas said. I don't even necessarily disagree with it. But if this rule wasn't in place, why would any designated player play at the All-Star?
Yeah. So here's the thing.
All right, Pablo. Thank you.
If the comment is if this rule doesn't exist, why would anyone come to the All-Star game? Then the thing you've created is flawed. If no one wants to be there, and we've had conversations with how many players? We've had conversations with domestic players who are not on huge salaries, who especially after one, are like, I'd really like to not go to the All-Star game. I'd like to spend time with my family. and this goes back to the San Diego conversation, you miss training. You miss training with your own team to prepare for a game because there is no break. Yeah. That's where this whole thing is broken, is the fact that it's not a break. So here's my moving past this slightly, but I've enjoyed this. I've enjoyed everyone in the chat, everyone who's smoking me. I appreciate it. Anyone on my side, I worry for you mentally, but I'm glad that someone else is in the foxhole with me. Here's my proposal. I may have said this on the show last week, so you can stop me, is you shift the All-Star game because it's not a midseason thing, so it doesn't matter where it happens. And again, it's not a break. You shift it coming directly out of a international break. You make that international, so probably the September one. You make it USA-Mexico or USA-Mexico and Canada, sort of like the Four Nations thing. Then you come out with a midweek All-Star game that leads to a weekend off for everyone but the Leagues Cup finalists. And then you come back the following Wednesday. So you get a legitimate break for the players. They're not missing anything that matters. The players who are playing in the Leagues Cup final don't come, which is fine because they're promoting it. And if you're building this whole, like, we want this synergy across these leagues, we want to show all this rivalry and blah, 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 like, make it a spectacle. Make it this 1 week spectacle of putting, like, CONCACAF on display, putting the rivalry between all of these on display, but also finding a way to lead into a little bit of a break with it. It is, I understand everyone who's going to say, oh, they're paid so much, it's so hard, whatever. It is a it is a punishment to be in an All-Star game, and like enough players are smart enough to not say that and not be quoted saying that coming out of it. But like there are 5 players who didn't come from League MX, and like this is not exactly what we need right now. And I don't think the display elevates any of what's happening. I don't think anyone watches the All-Star game who's not already a fan and is like, oh, whoa, I have to tune in for more of this.
And even some people who were in the stadium.
Including some people who were in the stadium.
Like,
you mentioned it, Rodrigo De Paul was announced. Looked fly. Like, that's a sick look.
Guys, when are you going to adopt this wardrobe? You're in Miami now.
Well, you could convince me on the linen pant move, because one, when everything went tight, as you know, I have gigantic calves, and it was not a great moment for me. Then I learned to regulate in it. So you could bring me on the wide linen pant. The white shirt, first of all, I can't go. I mean, I couldn't even. Come on. I can't. Like, you can't. But also, white in Miami is rough. And then they post up and they drink mate, which is like a warm beverage in the crowd for the rest of the game. I'm stoked to watch Rodrigo De Paul in all of this. I'm stoked to watch them play. Like, he's a fun soccer player, not in the normal ways, but like,
no, but in the ways that me and you appreciate.
100%. And also, like,
the hell out of somebody and curse at somebody.
And like, how is it going to go down being at some point a DP version of that?
Maybe. Wait, but who knows? You know, we don't know for sure.
We didn't really. You mentioned the Jorge Mas comments, by the way.
Yeah.
I think it's BS of like, oh, Messi's not going to feel good. He's not going to want to resign. But I would 100% have said the same thing if I was him.
Well, me too.
It's the only thing you have. You throw it out there. You just make everyone like stressed about it. Like all the time. They just have this in the back of their head being like, wait, why do I feel stressed right now? Oh, right. That's why. Inter Miami plays Atlas, Necaxa, and Pumas coming up in Leagues Cup.
Because Lionel Messi versus Aaron Ramsey, what we've been waiting for.
And Keylor Navas. Keylor Navas has signed with Pumas as well. We are going into Leagues Cup right now. We mentioned a bunch of the games that happened this weekend. There were some like wild results. Austin got a big victory. Philadelphia got a huge win. They won against the Colorado Rapids 3-1. And we're going to talk about Philadelphia again in a moment because there's actually a funny side effect of this Leagues Cup. So we are into the 2025 Leagues Cup competition. This is the real one, everyone. You thought the All-Star game was important? No. You thought Club World Cup that you had never watched before was important? No. This is the big time. This is the real one. So we have 3 games for every team that's in the competition coming up over the next 9 days. There are 36 teams in Leagues Cup, 18 Liga MX teams, that's the whole league, and then 18 MLS teams, which is not the whole league because we just keep expanding. So the way it works is you have 2 separate tables, and everyone in your table is in your own league, and you only play teams in the other league. So all 18 Liga MX teams sit in the same standings. They will all play an MLS team in all 3 games. Same for the MLS teams in inverse. And then you are ranked in your standings against the teams in your own league who you will never play against in this competition. And then we only have a quarterfinal. So only the top 4 teams in the 2 leagues are going to be the ones that move on. It is the top 9 teams in both conferences on the MLS side, except Vancouver, because they play in too many competitions. So San Diego replaced them, which when it happened, you were like, well, it makes sense, but it's weird. And now it's like a godsend for MLS that they got a border city that has legitimate like energy and vibe around them and has played some of the best soccer. That will be the one that ends up in this. So play kicks off tomorrow night, if you're listening when this comes out, on Tuesday night, and it runs through August 7th. That is the phase 1. I'm just going to call it the group stage because it's easier. So you play
phase 1.
Sorry, that is phase 1. You play 3 teams based off the inverse of the standings or whatever. You have the neutral site fake hosts for some of the Liga MX teams, and then you have MLS teams hosting the rest of the games. After that, we take a break from Leagues Cup. We go back into league play. Then we return for midweek games between league games up until the final. So the quarters and semis are both like Tuesday, Wednesdays. Those are in between normal leagues games that are happening on the weekends. And then the final is August 31st. It is a Sunday. 3 spots in the CONCACAF Champions Cup are available for this. 3, you ask. How do you find the 3rd? Don't worry. There's a 3rd place game because you were thinking they're not playing enough games. They've got you covered on that one. So on that Sunday, you've got a 3rd place game and the final to close the whole thing up, Tom. And now I think you said you wanted to do a game-by-game preview of every single Phase 1 match, all 55.
Played over, what, a 4-day span?
Yeah.
I am intrigued by the new format because I will say they needed to change where, like, I don't know, I remember, I think it was like Mazatlan versus Juarez in Austin in like a dead rubber group stage game. That had
that's better. That was better than Minnesota St. Louis playing for like the 18th time in a dead rubber game.
But like at least it was at Minnesota or St. Louis.
Yeah, fair. That's a home game.
There was like 52 people at that game, and like in Austin, it's just like, all right, like this probably needs to be changed. So I do like this, and so there is only in phase 1, there is only Liga MX versus MLS games. That is why this competition was created.
For sure.
So I like that. I like that there should be less constraints or the less time. Like again, just how long the league schedules needs to stop for this to happen. I will say though, one of the things that come out of this that aren't super positive is I had a CSO tell me bluntly, if we lose our first game, we're playing our backups, because like if we lose, the likelihood that we then
you're in a pot of 18 teams and only the top 4 get through.
Yeah. So and again, like, so I think we're gonna see a lot of meaningless day 3 games, whatever the phrasing is when you play your last game.
I think it's phase 1, phase 3. Phase 1, scene 3.
So scene 3. That's because I think there are going to be a lot of teams that are out of contention, but I mean, maybe not, right? And maybe that's a worst case scenario. Like, probably not all teams will be like, oh, we lose one game, we're out. Like, so that's something to monitor. That's something to watch. We'll see. I like that. You know what? There's a bunch of games tomorrow, and then we roll on. So we'll like. I'm gonna get more excited as the tournament goes on, but I do think that like I'm gonna have more juice for this year than last year, just because of how many MLS versus MLS games there were in the group stage last year.
Sorry, someone was yelling in my apartment. I was just making sure it was safe yelling and not unsafe yelling. It seems to be okay. I think we're complaining about people.
Somebody else from the tri-state area.
Yeah. I think
I was just saying what's up.
My guess will be that I'll get there. Like you're saying of like, once you see the teams play, I still think, I have said many times, I think you can't get closer to neutral experience than having a Mexican-based team playing in some of these major markets in the U.S. against U.S.-based teams. But it is still really hard to watch it and be like, none of the games are in Mexico. I understand the financial experience and like there's no value there. But it's hard to walk away from the competition and say like, Club America got to be decamped in Austin and play at Q2 and like that's the advantage. And like if that's the case, that stadium's going to bounce. It's going to be cool. They had a home field advantage in LA last year against the Rapids and they lost in a shootout, but like it felt like a Club America game. It's still not exactly the same. I agree with you. The format needed to be fixed. reducing the amount of teams in it makes it a little bit better. One of the things that always intrigued me about this was sort of having the middle and bottoms of the leagues play, because we see Columbus and LAFC play Club America and Pachuca and Cruz Azul fairly often. Like, we see that in CCC. We see that in other stuff. So I think that's the part that's always been interesting to me, and maybe there's a little bit more of that in this setup. But the nice part is that it's condensed and it reduces the layoff for most teams, and you won't have teams. I think like 2 years ago, Minnesota didn't have a home game for like 5 weeks through the summer, which is kind of the part where you want to be home and where you want to have most people. In saying all of this, Philadelphia, who are first place in the Sporting Shield right now, Nashville, who sit right behind them, and Vancouver, who are second in the West, are not in this competition. And I think that will be a massive advantage in the Shield race, because not only are you going to have this layoff, but the assumption is that like a Columbus or a Miami are going to get into the next rounds, and they're going to have midweek games. I mean, Miami's a mess because they've got they've got 2 games in hand still and whatever they've got to deal with. But like across the board, you're going to have these teams that are jamming midweek games and trying to make it to the end of this competition and focus on this while also having MLS to deal with. It's not cut and dry. Philly still has Open Cup. That game got rescheduled. They still have to deal with that. Like, Vancouver is not playing in this because they've already played in CCC, so there's games on their legs and all of that. But overall, I think these teams are going to be at an advantage, and I think in a month it's going to look pretty obvious that they were able to focus on the league.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point, but like, I'll reserve that kind of judgment for like as it plays out, right? Like, I think you're right that the likelihood is that at least one of those teams in the Shield race, again, it's just logical, right? They're the best teams in the league right now, and at least one, if not multiple, will get through, and then we'll see what the midweek games do. But for the teams that get grouped here with the other 14 teams that get grouped.
Phased. They got phased. Yeah, phase 1.
God damn it. It was right there. For the teams that get phased, I don't think that that's going to have a huge impact, right? Like, so if Miami lose and they're out, Columbus, whatever, like, I think that that's not going to be a pylon in terms of like fixture congestion or whatever. But your point is right. Like, the longer you go, the more difficult it's going to be. Then it's going to more mirror CONCACAF Champions Cup without the travel to Mexico.
It may end up, like, let's say this. It's shocking that I would talk about this in a way in which this format remains in any way going forward. That seems like a bold thing for me to do. But let's say we were to do that. I don't know how much you follow this, but like in the NFL, teams that are good play the other teams that are good from the previous year.
Yeah, I'm a football guy.
Nice. So you often see, like every year, you'll see a bad team flip quickly because they have an easy schedule because you play the other bad teams. And I wonder if this becomes the team that comes out of nowhere for the Shield ends up having advantages going forward because, I mean, they're going to flip the whole schedule. What the hell am I talking about? Why am I making up that this is going to be relevant to anything going forward? You have Columbus, by the way. So, like, yeah, they have TFC, NYCFC, and Red Bulls right around where all those games would be. So I think the assumption you'd feel safe is like, okay, those are winnable games. Also, those are must-wins if you're going to be in a Shield race, right? And you've got other games going on. Inter Miami have Galaxy, DC United, and then they'd have Chicago on the weekend. By the way, everyone has a game on August 30th. So I guess that game's going to get pushed somewhere else in the window if you end up making it to the Leagues Cup final.
Miami might have to play a doubleheader with their MLS Next Pro team.
That would be wild. MLS teams and Liga MX teams will not play the same league in the phase 1, and then they can't play in the quarterfinals because the top 4 will match up. So the semifinals would be the first place in which whoever wins goes through at that point. You could have games against your own league. Paolo said that Soccer-Wise has to do a live stream for the third place match for the real sickos, which last year the Rapids played in and was low-key a legit game. So we might be back. We might be all the way back for that one. So it's a really good point, and I appreciate that. And I appreciate you knowing our brand very, very well. That's all for us here on this one. We screamed about a bunch of stuff. I don't really remember what we talked about. For anyone listening via podcast, Tom is wearing a sleeveless cut-off Puma sweat jumpsuit with a hoodie that people think your water bottle is specifically matching. Is that the case? I
just grabbed the water bottle and this just so happened to work out. I've been doing yard work outside. No big deal.
Yeah, no big deal. Just like big guy work.
Took a break to break.
Big guy work over there. We've got a bunch of great shows coming up for the rest of the week. Jordan Angeli will be back with me on Wednesday. NWSL's finally back this weekend. We'll talk about the Euros. We'll talk about Copa America, what's coming up. Congrats to Nigeria for their huge victory, the come-from-behind win against Morocco in Morocco. So we'll talk about all of that. We will dig into everything else. Tom will continue to break stories, so we'll be back on Thursday with another set of updates and another ice cream shop. So don't worry. Don't get hungry. Don't get too hot. Like, we'll be there for you. Kickback Committee, first full episode is coming out this week as well. That's something to look forward to. And I will be in Burlington, Vermont this weekend for the USL2 National Champions. My friends, of course, are a part of the team, so I'm going to go help them out for the weekend. So if you're in the area, we met a bunch of people, actually, in Vermont here at Haymaker last week, who was an incredible host for us. It is the best bar in Austin, Texas. I'm not an expert on that, but I feel bold enough to say that. So anyone who's going to be around there, hit me up, let me know. I am very excited for that one. I like soccer. I like soccer on all fronts. Leagues Cup makes me question that sometimes, but then I come back around on a League 2 championship. So thank you once again to all of you in the chat hanging out with us. We are going to be here consistently throughout the weeks, especially here in the transfer window, to joke around, hang out, and talk. So thank you to all of you once again. We'll talk to you again very, very soon.